Hey guys, what is up? So today we are talking about Jimmy Fallon, if you couldn't tell by the title. And if you think the title Jimmy Fallon is a horrible person is way too harsh, just keep in mind when Rolling Stones was working on this article, they reached out to 80 people and not one person had anything positive to say about Jimmy up until after this article was published. And then you had Jerry Seinfeld, the comedian, who then responded to a story about him in the article, which we'll get to. And then that's when you hear some defense. But, anyways, with that being said, let's get right into the video. So the article goes on to say 16 current and former staffers say Fallon's erratic behavior spoiled their dream of working on The Tonight Show. Jimmy Fallon, who is known to be warm, funny, and energetic on screen, was a man who acted dismissive and irritable during production meetings. Now, I do think it's important to notate here when Rolling Stones was reaching out to Jimmy Fallon's current and former employees, the people that were willing to work with Rolling Stones on this article, more of them were from the former staffers. So usually, in my opinion, when someone leaves a job, it's usually for the most part because they didn't like something about the job. You know what I mean? So I do feel like it's important to acknowledge that here, because usually if you leave a job and the majority of the people commenting in this article are former employees, you're probably not going to hear anything positive, just to play devil's advocate here. But anyways, the employees that spoke to Rolling Stone go on to say that behind the scenes, as they put it, there were good Jimmy days and bad Jimmy days. So you can probably imagine the employees walking past each other, like, is this a good Jimmy day or a bad Jimmy day? So it was those vibes. Even one employee recalled a day where Jimmy seemed just really erratic, inconsistent, horrible behavior, confused. Like, he would be looking at a sheet of paper and there'd be a joke on there. He'd cross it out and then we'll look at it again and then would forget that he crossed it out. Now, many of his former employees / current employees believe that when Jimmy did act this way, they associated it with alcohol or him being hungover the day prior. Now, according to 2 current employees and 14 former employees, this was a very toxic workplace. And on top of that, they had 9 different showrunners in 9 years. So that's pretty much a manager a year. So if that doesn't tell you that something was going on, I don't know what does. The staffers going to say they felt intimidated and belittled. Staff was afraid of Fallon's outbursts and his inconsistent behavior. Many people went to HR, but nothing happened. As reported in the article, this was a place where people wanted to kill themselves, and a lot of staffers left because of their mental health. One employee was quoted saying, "It's a bummer because it was my dream job. Writing for late night is a lot of people's dream jobs, and they're coming into this and it becomes a nightmare very quickly. It's sad that it's like that, especially knowing that it doesn't have to be this way." And what's really irritating about this is because if you go on, any other channel or just blogs and yada yada, and you look at the comments, there's a lot of people passing this off as just, self-entitled workers. When you go to work, you actually have to work. Like, I've seen the most negative comments about this story, but I hate to break it to a lot of people. If you need to hear this, you need to hear it. But just because you have a really great job that someone else would want, just because you're working a job to where someone would, you're easily replaceable, that doesn't mean that gives your boss permission to treat you like shit. I like to categorize that as an old mindset, an old way of thinking. Like, you can do a job, and yes, jobs are sucky to do some days. Sometimes you like what you do, or even work jobs maybe that you don't like at all. Regardless of how you feel about the job, the person who you work for is still supposed to treat you with respect. Now, I do have a question, which is probably inappropriate, but I'm going to ask it anyways. If Jimmy Fallon treated his staff so horribly, right? And this was behind the scenes, low-key behind the scenes, but not really since we're reading about it now. But you know what I mean, right? Not supposed to know type of stuff. How does he treat his family at home? I know that's none of my business, but I'm just asking for a friend. The thought did cross my mind as I was reading this article. If you treat your staff like this, how are you treating your family at home? Now, of course, this was later on added to the article, but after this Rolling Stones article was published, Fallon got into a Zoom and apologized to staffers, saying, "It's embarrassing and I feel bad. Sorry if I embarrassed you and your families and friends. I feel so bad I can't even tell you." And to me, I guess it takes an article like this for someone to realize the severity of their actions. But I do believe that there's like a disconnect. I don't believe he believes he did anything wrong yet. I think when you're acting like that so fast, I believe that's PR, right? Because think about it this way. If for 9 years you had 9 different showrunners and 80 people were asked anything good about you, is there anything you want to say positive about Jimmy? And people, all they can say is that he's a talented person. But as far as how he treats his staff, he treats them horribly. I don't think you give a shit about your actions over the years. I think you can care less. I think has been 9 years. I'm just going off 9 years right now because of a different showrunner every year, but you got to think there were plenty of opportunities for you to be like, you know what? Maybe I treat my staff like shit, right? But you got to think he ignored all of those moments because he didn't care. So I do believe when he got into a Zoom and apologized to everybody when this article came out, I think that was purely PR. I'm not saying that he hasn't realized the severity of his actions. What I am saying is he couldn't have realized it that quickly because he was doing this shit for 9 years, or at least, you know. And a spokesperson from NBC didn't mention Fallon when making a statement, but this is what they said in PR style. Okay, let's read. "We encourage employees who feel they have experienced or observed behavior inconsistent with our policies to report their concerns so that we may address them accordingly." Now, I'm sorry for the accent, but you know, that's what you get when I'm reading BS. NBC Studios don't give a shit either because we haven't even touched HR yet. Really got into it because at first, if I'm being honest, when I was reading this article, I was sitting here and I'm like, okay, I hear like your typical stuff, right? Oh, my boss treats me like shit, so I quit, right? But the HR that we're gonna get to, that story pisses me off, and that's why I am so glad that Rolling Stone was able to get this article out. I'm gonna get to HR, but the article goes on to say everyone felt pressure because you have a lot of people at NBC that are ready to take this Hollywood job. Everyone is replaceable. Many staffers have lost faith and leadership because they've gone through so many bosses and showrunners, which is completely understandable. And nobody ever told Jimmy no, which, you know, why would you? The show was called Jimmy Fallon. One former employee stated that they had their first anxiety attack on the show and they needed anxiety medication. Another employee felt physical ramifications of their declining mental health, like their hair thinning and their weakening nail beds. I mean, people clearly went through it on this show. Like, this is god awful. I feel like, you know, we hear about Ellen and now we're hearing about Jimmy Fallon. And mind you, when this article came out, people were just like, oh, we knew about this. I didn't know about this.
It is not just did people not realize that he was drunk. Did people not realize that he was drunk while hosting the show? If, of course, what the employees are saying is true. I have an episode, and I'll show you guys clips in this video, that I have been sharing with my friends for the last 2 years. Mind you, I don't watch a show like that, so I'm not caught up on how he usually is. I was at home on the couch, enjoying a little bit of an herbal refreshment. So I'm like sinking into the couch. My senses are heightened. It's an interview with Common from 2021, and Common is talking about a new album and like playing basketball with Barack Obama, okay? And so Common, we know Common, mellow guy, chill guy. And I am watching Jimmy, and I literally sit up from the couch, and I am like, this guy is absolutely drunk right now. And also, yes, because this is TikTok, substance abuse and alcoholism are very bad, yes. But please know that bringing your substance abuse or alcoholism to work still has consequences, bad consequences. And you should lose your job if you do that. Anyway, okay, watch this video.
I can't believe that you get like a little nervous. I mean, you just performed for President Obama's at 60th.
Yeah, I was more nervous to do the rap remix than to do President Obama. So.
Do you get nervous though before if you're performing in front of? I mean, there's some big names there.
I mean, I get a little nervous. Table.
Yeah, exactly. See, that's exactly right. You know what? That is a gift.
Nah, but seriously, do you get the president?
No, I have no clue. But isn't it true that doesn't he owe you a birthday gift? Well, you love basketball. I mean, you're a player.
I love basketball. I was ready.
89 points. Wow, he's really good. No, you would play
I
hard.
was gonna go hard. I know. You've been in that experience,
Yeah,
right?
my wife, yeah, she's still, yeah. I mean, that's how we.
You're not.
That's how we do it.
That's the best way.
Just go. Let's just be friends, have a good time.
friends,
That's
right.
Yeah, I love it. It is so good, and you were saying that well, I mean, you know Black Thought for how long now?
Look,
The Roots.
Let me tell you,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love it when you come on the show. We obviously love it when you come on the show.
Yeah.
Hopefully this feels like home to you.
yeah, this is home, man. It's home.
I love you, bro.
man.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And what pisses me off about this is that if people knew for years, then why didn't they do anything? There's got to be other people better than Jimmy Fallon anyways, if I'm just being honest. Matter of fact, if today you said Jimmy Fallon was like the most funniest person on TV, then there's really something wrong, severely wrong with The Tonight Show. But anyways, moving on, 4 other employees state that they are currently in therapy from working for Jimmy Fallon, and 3 other employees said that they experienced ideation during their time working on the show. One employee stated, "It just always felt like you should be grateful that you have a job. You should be grateful that you have this position at this show, at this network." Jimmy would berate and belittle staffers out of frustration. And then they would always say something along the lines, or this phrase, "we're up against it." It was a phrase that they said when anytime they were dealing with bad Jimmy, having a bad Jimmy day. Over the years, there has been talks about Jimmy Fallon's relationship with alcohol. In 2016, the New York Post wrote a story about it, and Fallon's response was something along the lines of, "I could never do a day-to-day job if I was drinking every night. That's just kicking you when you're down." There even has been reports about employees, they would be smelling alcohol on Jimmy's breath. One staffer even stated that depending on Fallon's mood, they felt like his notes and feedback was passive aggressive, also with personal insults as opposed to constructive criticism. There were comments like, "Are you okay? Seriously? Do you need help?" In this article, they do share that there were 2 employees that do recall a moment where Jerry Seinfeld was on, and Jimmy got upset because one employee messed up the cue cards, and then he ended up scolding that employee. And then Jerry was like, "You should apologize to that employee." And they even stated that Jerry Seinfeld felt uncomfortable. But then when this article came out, Jerry Seinfeld actually came to Jimmy Fallon's defense. Now you can argue that this may fall under the comedian boys club, or maybe Jerry Seinfeld was telling the truth. The article came out and this is what Jerry had to say. "This is stupid. I remember this moment quite well. I teased Jimmy about a flub and we all had a fun laugh about how rarely Jimmy is thrown off. It was not uncomfortable at all. Jimmy and I still occasionally recall it and laugh. Idiotic twisting of events." So that's Jerry's statement. I guess take it how you take it. A video resurfaced of Jimmy Fallon in blackface, and this was in 2000 when he was doing a impersonation of Chris Rock. And Jimmy did apologize to the world. He put out a statement. However, this was brought into the article only because, in my opinion, I felt like it was trying to illustrate how fake Jimmy Fallon is, because although he did apologize to the world, he didn't apologize to his staff. He didn't bring it up to his staff or nothing. So I don't know also how to take that, because if I'm being honest, if Jimmy Fallon is making a statement to the world, then maybe one could argue that means the staff too. But I do also at the same time understand where the staff is coming from. So I don't know. You kind of also can take that how you take it. So the article goes into employees finding other jobs, quitting the show, and they had exit interviews when they did it. Now, here's where I want to talk about HR, because this is what pisses me off. I mean, other than people wanting to themselves, but this one really illustrates that they had no protection. Usually when you have a job, usually if you're not lucky enough to have a union, you still have an HR department that is supposed to be separate. They're supposed to actually make sure that everyone is doing their jobs accordingly, acting professional. And HR did not have any of the employees' backs, none of them. So there was an incident where at the time there was the showrunner. Her name is Jamie Granite Betterman. I hope I am saying that correctly, so I apologize if I'm not. But anyways, a lot of people did not like this individual. None of them did, right? That's what it's sounding like in this article. And there was one employee that went to HR about Betterman, right? one employee. And what happened to this employee is that they talked to an HR representative, right? And this HR representative then went and emailed Betterman about it. Emailed Jamie about this employee, and then there became retaliation. This employee was getting written up. This employee was, it was a lot. And during this employee's exit interview, because they ended up just finding another job, guess who walks into the room during the exit interview? Jamie Granite Betterman. And I don't blame the staffers viewing this as an intimidation tactic, because now you have to question, like, how many people did this happen to? And I forgot the huge tea about this. So the reason how we know that the HR representative sent an email to Jamie Granite Betterman about it was because the staffer actually saw a exchange of emails about it. And in the article, it also states that Rolling Stones saw this as well. Actually, physically saw the email exchange themselves. So this did happen. An employee walked to HR, complained about the problems that were going on, how they were feeling about everything and what they were going through. And instead, this HR representative then reaches out to the person and talks crap about that employee. This is not a safe place. No wonder why people want to themselves here. That's absolutely absurd. I mean, the one thing you would hope is you want to at least feel like you can go to HR. I mean, the article even goes on to report that people would get fired and they wouldn't even know the reason why they got fired. I mean, in a lot of states, you can actually be fired and your employer does not have to give you a reason why you're fired. So now, the only positive actions we see Fallon doing now currently is that he did apologize to his staffers after this article was published, but he is also, working on a podcast currently, collaborating with other people, launched a podcast series called Strike Force 5, where proceeds will go towards the staff members, because currently right now there is a writer's strike. So a lot of people, except Drew Barrymore, they are not working actively supporting the writer's strike and the actor's strike as well. So the article basically ends by saying, like, The Tonight Show was renewed by NBC up until 2026. So my thoughts on this article is hopefully after 2026, they can find someone else. I don't know. I'm just not down for shitty bosses who don't give a shit and unreliable, like, HR people. Like, if you can't go to HR, the whole point of having that department is so they don't do just what that human resource representative did. The whole point is when you're reaching out to someone to resolve an issue, you want to talk about improvements. What can we change here? What can we do there? And instead, I'm really pissed about this HR representative. But overall, apparently when you go to TikTok, people have been saying that Jimmy Fallon has been like this for years. So maybe we should just do something about it. Now, it's very possible once everyone is back on the air that we do see a new and improved Jimmy Fallon. I mean, he has all the time in the world to work on himself since currently he's not on air. When it comes to situations like this, I pay attention to what I don't hear. I don't hear anyone coming out in Jimmy Fallon's defense. I mean, and I'm not counting Fox News. I'm talking about just people that don't have an agenda. And Jerry Seinfeld, he doesn't count as someone coming out saying something positive about Jimmy Fallon, only because I'm pretty certain the only reason Jerry Seinfeld made a statement to Rolling Stones is because he was mentioned in the Rolling Stones article. But I don't hear anyone else really coming to his defense. Now, you can argue they just don't want to get canceled or yada yada. But anyways, I have one more last thought, and that is, Jimmy Kimmel's funnier. But anyways, that's my honest conversation. Thank you guys for watching. Let me know what you think. Do you think there was just not enough? There was a lot of former employees, so obviously it's a no-brainer. We're going to hear bad things about Jimmy. Or do you think, this is all true? I want to hear your comments about having different showrunners in 9 years. I just want to know what you think about Jimmy Fallon. Do you think he's going to get a new staff? Do you think, well, probably not. I just want to know what you guys think. But anyways, thank you guys for tuning in and watching, and I will see you soon on the next video. Bye, guys.